This is the audio podcast. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of March, and it is show 143. Welcome, Solo Take. I'm Samuel
Yes,
Freeman. There is no Scott here this week, but Adam Yanch is here.
yes, I am. Yes, and everyone, welcome to this week's episode. We've got our news, a feature by Sam, and we've got Plunder. You can head to the audio podcast website to get the notes for today's show, which also has links to the things we're talking about. That's the audiopodcast.co.uk/show/143. And you can get in contact with us. We'll do the contact at the end because it makes more. I think feel like it makes more sense to build up discussion and then talk about it.
Okay, so news then. The UK charts now include streaming, is our first item of news. So, yeah, that's the thing now.
Yeah. I suppose it's kind of inevitable, but is there a difficulty in that streaming? Like, how can they verify that all of the streams are legitimate? I remember we covered on the audio podcast a while ago a service on SoundCloud that basically ramps up your plays. You pay them like $20 or something, and that ramps up your plays to make it look like your music is more played, and it changes its state in the algorithm and whatnot.
Yeah.
So how do the people who compile the charts know that the figures they're getting are actually legitimate?
And it must be limited as to where they're getting the data from. So Spotify would be one. It's UK, so maybe Pandora's not relevant here.
I guess, yeah, SoundCloud wouldn't be involved, but
yeah.
I mean, there must be. Is there a way of gaming Spotify and getting more plays, that kind of thing? Although in Spotify, there isn't a number that says how many plays something's had, is there?
No, maybe there's a play count for your personal, how many times you have listened to it. That might feature as a number.
Yeah.
Like it does in iTunes and things.
Well, I'm sure they've thought about it and they must have some solution. But that's the one thing that I think. But I mean, it's sensible as a market that is bound to technology, and technology progresses. They have to change the way they do their numbers. Do you think that there's do you think there's a certain way it's going to impact what gets in the charts?
Potentially. I mean, let's talk about the way that they use these numbers. It's not just because we're talking about the album chart rather than streaming chart. So it's what they look at is they look at the top 12 tracks. So an album may have more than 12 tracks, but they only look at 12 from each album. So
Okay.
And they count how many times each of those tracks have been played. They then discount, or they don't totally discount, but they weigh down the top two so that end singles don't affect it too much.
Okay.
So they add up the numbers that it's had, get an average from that, having weighed down the top two, and then they divide it by 1,000. And then that's the number which goes in as if it was a CD sale.
Okay.
Or a download sale. Yeah. So so if we discount the top two, they're looking at 10 tracks, basically. They're looking at how many times the 10 tracks of the album have been played. So that's kind of devaluing it by 100, I suppose. Because they're dividing it by 1,000, so they're saying that 100 plays of the album is equivalent to one sale of it.
Okay.
That's my interpretation of the numbers.
Okay, well, I mean, I've got to say that I don't really know. I don't tend to interact much with the charts because I don't find most chart music that interesting.
Yeah, it was Scott who posted the news item for this, and the link goes to BBC and their discussion of it, and there's a lot of pop acts that are named within that article and the number of album sales they've had. I think I recognised one or two of the names. I certainly wouldn't recognise any of the music. But if you go to officialcharts.com, I'll try and get that added to the show notes, but that's where I read from that.
Well, I've had a recent kind of a bit of exposure to pop music through 4Music, which is a TV channel on Freeview, and I'm like, they play the same 20 tracks, it seems, over and over again, and the videos are terrible, and most of the music's pretty boring, I find. Anyway, so UK streaming something. Next news article is that the Wu-Tang Clan once upon a time in Shaolin. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
It does. I'm guessing it's good if I've read this, isn't it? Have you read this one at all? Do you know?
No, I haven't.
That's fine. It's a good. Yeah, but I did. So Wu-Tang Clan, we're okay so far. We've heard of them. I've heard of them. I know a bit about them. Yeah, they've been around a while, and they have a good knack of kind of creating their own mythology about themselves, and it's a collective of artists who have their own individual careers separately from being part of Wu-Tang Clan, and they kind of sponsor or adopt other artists, and they have fashion labels, and always diversifying. They are a commercial entity in a real sense, but this current project, they're going to take in a bit of a so if all that the contemporary trend is for streaming and stuff, and that kind of is in way we've discussed how that's potentially devaluing money and devaluing music in monetary terms. What this album, which is called Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, this album is intended to kind of challenge that in a way by they're only going to have one physical copy of it.
Okay.
They've already done knives and stuff like that, allegedly, which is to be believed. And they've made this one copy of the album, and they've kept it all very secretive. There's links to short clips of music that can be heard, but the whole album is being kept very secret, very safe. It's in a silver platinum box or something. It has a leather-bound book with it, and this one copy will be sold through an art auction house. And the owner, the buyer, then will be the sole keeper of this album. And in 88 years' time, the copyright will be transferred to them, so they can do whatever they want with it.
In 88 years' time. Okay.
Yep.
And are they allowed to transfer that agreement to like their next of kin and this kind of thing?
Yep, I think that it becomes. I think that there's documents encased with this product, this artifact. I mean, it's more of an artifact than a product, and it's the owner of the album, it's the owner of it at the time of 88 years. I think could then commercially release it, give it away for free, make copies of it. But certainly the idea is that it would be unlawful for them to duplicate it and redistribute it ahead of that time.
I see. Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Why?
Why? Okay, there's a couple of quotes, some quotes from tweets here. One says that we felt that retail commercialization and mass production would dilute the status of the album as a one-off art and compromise its integrity of our statement. So they're making a statement with this.
Okay, so basically they're just coming up with a way of getting some press headlines.
I suppose, yeah, and making some money as well, and drawing attention to themselves. We do have another album that was released quite recently, I think. Is it A Better Tomorrow? I'm not sure when that was, but there's the other quote. I read the wrong quote then. I had the wrong tab open. The quote I was going to use was, "We're trying to reattach values to music for the benefit of all kinds of musicians. We released A Better Tomorrow, which is for our fans, but we created Once Upon a Time in Shaolin for a different purpose. Plan for the two records to balance each other."
Okay. Well, let him do it. It's not like it affects you and me in any way, and you know, let's experiment with the art form. You know, I think that's fine.
Yep.
I don't think I have anything else to say on it.
No, but yeah, it's definitely they're taking what kind of was popular music or is popular music, and the album's been made kind of in a production style that harks back to their first album, which was from '93. So they've attempted to recreate that kind of sound within the production, apparently. But having taken that last night, I think it was, or certainly this week, at the Museum of Modern Art in Queens, New York, there was a 13-minute kind of preview play for private viewing. So they're completely framing this as art, 100%, which is good for them, I say.
Let's do it now. Something that I'm probably a little bit more synchronized with is Native Instruments, because I am a Native Instruments user. I have the Machine Studio here, so I use Machine, and as part of what you can do with Machine is download these additional expansion packs. One of them is a new one called Neon Drive. Now, this is for Machine? Yes, it is. You actually, when you buy a Machine, you do actually get a voucher that allows you to buy something of this ilk for free. I used mine already, but I spotted the Neon Drive and I thought, hey, that looks kind of cool. I kind of like the look of that one. And it's basically like a lush synth pop expansion pack for your Machine setup. So yeah, I mean that's pretty cool.
So it includes 8 projects, 40 drum kits, a whole bunch of samples and one-shot samples, and patterns in the hundreds.
And I mean, you know, because in the last few weeks, you know, I've mentioned that I've been using Ableton Live.
Yep.
And I've just made an album using the Machine Studio. And the thing that I've been frustrated by with Live is the relative meagerness of what you get with it. It's the actual software is I'm very interested in, but you do get a bunch of like expansion pack kind of like loops and whatnot, but you don't get like a decent synthesizer that you can actually program yourself, a proper full-blown sampler. You have to buy the most expensive version of Live to get these things, and I got the middle version, and so I feel kind of hamstrung. Now, Machine is kind of the same, apart from you get so much more with the initial pack that it kind of doesn't factor as much, if you get what I mean. And both Ableton and Native Instruments do these packs to expand their own softwares, but you know, I'd say that I feel like maybe you get more with Machine when you get it, but then Ableton's a different beast, you know. Max for Live, it's a bit more of a flexible piece of software, things like that. I mean, I'm rambling, really. I'm rambling.
That's quite all right, Adam. That's quite all right. Is it my turn to ramble? Should we move on from there?
I will pass the rambling baton to you now.
Okay. This is going to turn into a proper ramble. So last week it's my turn to do a feature this week. We are doing on that review last time I did it. So I need to switch cameras, which means I need to access the things. So I am going to switch cameras for the benefit of the YouTube during the discussion, but obviously this is a podcast, so I will describe what I am up to. If I can get this in shot. Okay. maybe. You know when you spend ages setting something up and then it comes to use it and it's not how you left it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, after years of being a non-iThing user, I'm kind of reluctantly into that now. But let's pick up where we left off last time with this BeatHawk. So this is UVI's BeatHawk, where they sent us a code to do this for review. I'm kind of already done the review. I'll let them know that I'm kind of re-reviewing it. But the review was based on me playing with it a few times over a week, and in the 2 weeks since then, I played quite apps that are free of charge, which is kind of what I'm more interested in, really, because we're talking about recreational music making now rather than maybe. I'm not sure where the line where the line is. There a line there? Told you I was going to be rambling. Okay, there's a couple of things I did want to talk about in here specifically. I'm going to start with the more negative things. To create a new project, you can go to a menu and click New Project, and immediately a new project will load up. Which is kind of good, and it's empty. There's no the default pad assignments are all deleted, and you can go from back, which is great. Except that it has a kind of old school way of saving it. In order to save your work, you need to explicitly say Save Project or Save Project As. Which means that if you've been working on something and you accidentally click up here and then click that, it will wipe your work. Oh, that demo wasn't on camera, sorry. But
How does it handle if you go to a different app, for example, or if the phone? Well, that's an iPad, but you know, if you go to a different app for a bit and then you come back.
Yep. So yeah, this app only is an iPad app. This is an iPad Mini that we're on, Mini. It's quite happy to be in the background. I can do that now. I'm going to show some other apps in a bit. So if I switch across here, if we go to the home screen, it sometimes, or right now it's not, it will tell you that if the microphone's there. It doesn't continue playing, actually. One of the things I was planning to show is, so let's open last saved project. Oh, how strange. That is, okay. Yep.
The camera, it all works. No.
No, well, what's happened? Okay. Loading and saving of patches seems a little bit buggy to me on this BeatHawk. At the beginning of this, when I was setting up this camera with Adam just before we started the show, I said, "Oh no, I've accidentally overwritten my latest pattern." So I had there's a track, a project, and I'd made there was already one pattern in there, and this morning I had purposes, and it appeared that had disappeared, and now it's come back. So I thought I'd lost it, but it is there. How strange. On one occasion, I had perhaps 10 of the 16 pads all loaded up with sounds that I'd recorded myself. And when I loaded up the project several days later, maybe a week later, it said that the samples were in the pads and the patterns that I'd recorded in were there. I could see the pads lighting up when I pressed play, but there was no sound coming out. And the only way I could find to restore that was to go through one by one and reload. So in the track, you can go to a browser and reload, and from the browser, reload the sample. So yeah, it's not without its bugs, but one step. Although you can, when you record patterns, you record in real time how that pattern should be, and there's no like piano roll or anything like that that shows you that pattern, which I really like, because I'm always, if I can see the visual representation, I always use it, whereas this forces you just to kind of like use a more performative way of doing it. So the only timeline representation is of entire patterns.
So I've always wondered if actually working that way, like having, an example would be to use an EQ on a mixing desk rather than using an EQ plugin where you get to see the curves and everything. I wonder if that would actually over time make you better.
Yeah, well, maybe. It just forces a different way of working, which I find good. It's kind of refreshing. Would it make you better over time.
Well, I wonder if it will hone your skills, your hearing skills over, um, because that's how they used to mix. Back in before you'd have a visual interface for things, it was all done on your ears. So you could only be like EQing, compressing, and everything, either using where the dials are, or by hearing, and you'd obviously be trying to listen to it. So
That's it. And yeah, I find that the rectilinear interface of DAW, having like tracks, everything arranged in lines, is yeah, it's very useful. And we kind of over the past decade or two of working with that type of interface, yeah, if you want to work in that way, it's great. But I find that for just kind of creative thinking, I can store that kind of information in my mind, and then by not having it on screen to play with, makes me play with different things on screen. I find that, yeah, it feels more creative in a way because it's more restrictive. I'm having to think about it in a different way, and I like thinking in different ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
Okay, so let's move out of this app and come back to it in a minute. Let's look at some other stuff. So the other things I wanted to look at were, there was other stuff in there I wanted to look at, but we've been ranting for a while. Perhaps it would have been more interesting. This is Little MIDI Machine, which is free. It's from Synthetic Bits, and it's got a retro interface to it. You can randomize the patterns and you can play. Now, the sounds that is, so it has built-in sounds, but they're just like by switching those off, we can send the MIDI to another app, and on this occasion I've gone with the Nanolog from Steinberg, which is free as well. Which is a very basic synth, but yeah, has things. And I mean, if we go for the acid house bass, then it immediately sounds like Reason to me. If we play the pattern, so.
I think we've got a new audio podcast room being created right now.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah. So as we can see, switching up to here, we are able to hear the sound in the background. Now, I think all of these things have awareness of WIST, the wireless sync start technology thing that was made by Korg.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't all have the ability to play the audio in the background. So if I go back to here, the tempo hasn't been saved. That's what was lost. If I set this back to the same tempo, because they're on, WIST is great for synchronizing things across different iOS devices, but on the same device, it doesn't really have any helpfulness. So hopefully. Okay, but now if I switch apps, so say I want to go.
We're in complete hip hop territory here, electronic hip hop territory.
But you see now, although the playback on the Beat Hawk has ceased, unfortunately. If I go back, it'll still be there. But yeah, Beat Hawk will not play its audio in the background. Now maybe there's a setting that I've missed that enables that. It's possible, I suppose. Preferences, perhaps. So there's the WIST sync is there. And that's just the effect setting. So yeah, in terms of multiple apps on the same iPad, there's an issue there. There's certain things you can do, other things you can't do. So yeah, okay, is that ranty enough and long enough? I think that maybe I might stop now.
That's all right.
The last thing I wanted to say was about like the reasons why things are free. So BeatHawk's not free. It's I can't remember. Was it about?
It's very cheap. It's like £5 or something.
Yeah, around about £5, I think. Oh dear, definitely less than £10. It does have not obviously, but it does have downloadable content. So there is in the libraries as well as the stuff that you get for free, which is an EDM factory and an urban factory, and then you've got your user library of all the sounds you can record.
Mm-hmm.
There is then a big long list of different things: world percussion, vintage guitars, funk, electro pop, etc. And these are all in-app purchases which you can get for £3 or £4 each.
Almost the same price as Beathawk itself.
That's it. That was one of the reasons I kept coming back to this. Like, would I ever get tempted by buying them? I don't know. And it does do instruments as well. I think
the thing is, you don't have much recourse. You see, that's the main way that you get sounds for Beathawk. But if you're on like the computer platform, if you're on a computer platform, you can get a plugin or samples from anywhere, really. So you're kind of a captive audience in a way. But you know what? Yes, it's fine. Like the Neon Drive that we mentioned before in the news, that is £44. So you know you can buy 11 packs here in Beathawk and get, you know, for the same price. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, it is. And
have you bought one? Have you seen what they come with?
no, I've listened to a few of the for free. You can listen to what their demo tracks, and some of them. Yeah, I'm going to go back and show one of the things that I didn't show earlier, which is to do with loops. So as well as hits, there are instruments as well, and with the loops, if we go to the sample, you can perhaps see. Well, anyway, in the interface, it shows the loop, and by default, it will. When you play when you play the pad, it'll play the loop like this. I muted it, didn't I? Okay, which is all well and good. And then if we go into the pitch mode of the interface, we get this kind of keyboard interface, and we can play that same loop at different volumes. So let's just turn the volume up on this. At different pitches, so it'll keep the tempo the same, but pitch shift it. Okay, all well and good, but then we can switch on to this other mode, which I kind of discovered by accident. I'm sure that maybe it's demonstrated somewhere. Apologies for those that are watching the camera. This is like terrible camera work. Under here, so underneath the representation of the waveform, there is a little keyboard icon, and then that will map each of the slices of the loop to the keys. So which I think is kind of cool, and then it's got this repeat feature, which will, whatever the quantize is set to, you can just hold down a key, which in the context of jamming,
Machine's got the same thing called note repeat. Can you change the resolution of that?
Yes, you can. So if I switch it, we're on 85 BPM, so I've put it up to 1/32th of that, 1/72.
Oh.
Etc. So, yeah, in the context of a loop, that can be kind of cool. I liked that feature. There we go. That was the bit that I skipped out in my list of things I wanted to mention. But so yeah, that kind of thing. Although you can record in your own hits, there's no mechanism for creating your own sliced loops. So
okay.
That's why I brought that back up.
Sweet.
Shall we plunder?
We can indeed, but one question I have for you, Sam, is what do you think my camera picture is this week?
Oh, let's have a look. I was just switching my own camera, so now let's have a look at Adam.
You've got a big XLR right in the middle of your screen there.
I have, yeah. That's because it was doubling up as my that's my camera holder, which I probably could have focused. Never mind. Last minute. So right, I'm looking at your camera's feed now, which is definitely a mixing desk because we have solo and on buttons now. Because it's a solo and on, I'm guessing it's a Yamaha. Is that right?
It is a Yamaha.
It is a Yamaha mixing desk.
To be honest, from the picture, there's no obvious clue which model it is. But do you want to throw a guess out there?
I'm just going to go with 01V. Although I don't think it is. Or is it?
It's an 01V96.
It is an 01V, fantastic, 96, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to own an O2R or something bigger than that. But yeah, I've been setting up my little studio a bit more. So I'll probably do a few more. And I put my camera on a USB extension lead, so now I'll be able to put it on other things in my studio for future weeks. Good, huh? Right, let's do some Plunder.
Okay, first up is I've lost the tab. It's Peter Kay, is it? Is that the guy's name?
Yep.
Probably episode 1. Yep. I've not seen this, but it's the mishearing of pop lyrics and making jokes about it.
This is quite clearly a Scott thing.
Yeah.
But it's easy to mishear pop lyrics sometimes, and sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's fairly boring. But I imagine Peter Kay has done a good job of, picking the right ones and weaving them into his stand-up. The thing to remember about this link, possibly not safe for work. So if you're at the Audio Podcast website, at the show notes for today's show, just be a bit cautious about clicking that link there. Just be a bit cautious.
Fair enough.
Anything else on that one?
No, except that I'd never be able to. Somebody over someone's shoulder. I saw on Facebook a video which was edited together of the pop tunes themselves, of their own videos, and playing the original sound, but then they had subtitles of how you could of what you might mishear it as, and obviously once you see the words, so same theme, different video, but because this is let's not rant about the negative aspects of Facebook, but the way that's next to impossible to re-find things is one.
The next Plunder item is I remember reading this actually, and I think I remember it was in a book. I know it's an article, but it was in a book that was a bunch of edited together things. And so the article in question is basically Karlheinz Stockhausen criticizing how various electronic musicians make their music. And this would have been written probably at the
95. It says, but it's back in 95.
Oh, I was going to say in the 90s,
yeah.
Sometime maybe late 90s. But yeah, and I remember reading this and just thinking, this is completely stupid. Like, what does it matter what Karlheinz Stockhausen thinks about these composers? And then the composers, the artists are like Aphex Twin and Scanner, and they react to Karlheinz Stockhausen's critique of their work, and are a bit too kind on him. I think they're a bit like, oh wow, Karlheinz Stockhausen, and it's just like, go on, say that he's an asshole, because that's completely out. I mean, that's my view of this article. But did you ever read that?
I scanned through this, no pun intended, this week, and yeah, whatever. I think the thing with Stockhausen in general is that, he's dead now, but he was experimenting with electronic music before most of us were born, and so we get born and we have all this technology, and then we get to experiment with it and make stuff, and so we're inevitably going to end up doing some of the same stuff that he did decades earlier, but in a different way. The same techniques are going to emerge through the technology, and I think that was like one of Stockhausen's examples here was, they should go and listen to Hymnen, or they should go listen to Contact, which has lots of stuff going on, Contactor or whatever.
Yeah, go and listen to my piece, this, to show you how to improve your composition thing. That was the problem with it, is that the people who he critiques, I don't think have any pretensions they're making music that is like Stockhausen's or influenced by Stockhausen's music. It just happens to be electronic music, and that's the problem I have with it. Is it seems needless, and Stockhausen doesn't really come at it from a very. I don't like the direction he came at it from, really. I think it's kind of mean and selfish. But anyway, there we go. That's this one. What was the name of the book that I'm trying to remember? It's white. It's by Christoph Cox and somebody else. It's a very good book to read if you are Audio Culture. That'll be the book.
Okay.
Audio Culture Readings in Modern Music, which is basically multi-chapters, and each chapter is either an article or some kind of edited thing from another source. But the writers involved, they're very widely spread across electronic music and modern music. You got articles by Brian Eno and all sorts of people. So I mean,
let's see if we can get this into the Plunder next week rather than try and get it into this week's notes. Let's put the
yeah,
book in
that's
there.
true, because I imagine that Scott's probably read it as well.
I'm familiar with it. I wouldn't say I've read it, but I'm familiar.
I didn't read all of it. I got a good bit of the way through, but yeah, lots of good stuff there. So maybe we put that in the Plunder next week.
And now the final piece of Plunder, which is kind of slash news, but it's definitely it's contemporary cultural news, but not necessarily audio news. Is the death of Leonard Nimoy this week as a thing?
Yeah. I was like, you can always tell something's happened, something like someone's passed away when you're on Twitter and people start like mentioning this person. A lot of people who are completely disconnected start mentioning a person, and you're like, uh-oh. And
He must be dead.
Yeah, and then you go to the BBC website and it turns out that, sometimes it's someone you don't care about, but Leonard Nimoy, nice chap. I do like Star Trek, the original series, just because it's not hugely geeky, I don't think, but it's charming, it's kind of fun, and also think back to the 60s when it was aired, and actually a lot of the ideas that they would have been playing with would have been quite new.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are a bit cliched now, but that's because other people have made them cliched. Yeah.
In terms of geekiness and stuff, I did enjoy his cameo in the first of the modern Star Trek movies as Spock, when there was multiple Spocks in the same film. It all gets very silly, these things. You can't take these things seriously. That's the trick. But
yeah, I'm not so far, because I saw the second of the new Star Trek films in the cinema after the first one, which was reasonably good, and then the second one was pretty bad and all over the place and a big mess. But the other thing that Leonard Nimoy was in that not many people really ever mention is he was the voice of Galvatron in the original Transformers the movie, the good Transformers movie, made in the 80s with 80s rock and roll music and good production values, very good production values for a Transformers cartoon. But he's the main evil bad guy who replaces Megatron, and it's just brilliant because you grow up and you know that he's Spock, who's this kind of nice guy effectively, and then he becomes he voices like this evil guy, and he does evil really well. It's like you can tell that Leonard Nimoy wants to take over the world or something like that. It's great. Anyway, so what is actually in the Plunder?
What's in the Plunder? It's a video that I've not seen. I didn't get around to watching this one. Acoustic Labs. I've posted it on the YouTube, and it is a 4-minute 24 video that appears to feature acoustic instruments being played, presumably Star Trek-y music, but I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a bit, who knows, actually. I should watch this. It could, the description focuses on Star Trek, so there's probably not any kind of Bilbo Baggins song in there. That's probably...
That's good.
I don't know. You never know. I'd like to think that there could be. So
the old Star Trek Lord of the Rings crossover.
Yeah. Because I'm not just being completely mad. Scott would know. Leonard Nimoy did record a Bilbo Baggins song, didn't he?
Oh yeah, because he also did have a significant audio back catalogue. I think Ars Technica had an article about his Leonard Nimoy's musical career. That would have made a good plunder. Oh well, we've missed that.
I just encourage people to type Nimoy Baggins into Google and yeah, the Ballad of Bilbo Baggins. That's the one I was thinking of. There you go. Popular culture. We can just the images is enough to make me laugh and smile. Okay.
And with that, we come to the end of another episode of the audio podcast.
Yes, so that was episode 143, which had a title. I can't remember what it was.
Welcome, Solo Take. Welcome, Solo Take. And, of course, you can contact us here at the audio podcast by email, show@theaudiopodcast.co.uk, and also via Twitter @theaudiopodcast. Yeah.
Yes, and the audio podcast is available on iTunes, on YouTube, on Gpodder, on Stitcher, and any other podcast client you may wish to use. And of course, theaudiopodcast.co.uk is where all those past notes and everything are. Apparently, the tags have even been fixed. Since we're on website version 3 or 4 now. I don't know. Since we started 143 shows ago.
At least 3, probably 4, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's still being fixed. Haha. Okay, cool. We shall be back next week. Hopefully Scott shall be able to join us, and we hope you have a good week.
Indeed.
Goodbye.
I've been Samuel Freeman. Goodbye.
I've been Adam Yanch. Goodbye.